everyone, Helen here. How are you today? I hope you're okay. It's a very dull day here. It's pouring with rain outside and I've spent ages before recording this faffing about with the lighting to make sure you can see me a bit. So hopefully this is okay. I've got a light down here and I had it shining in my eyes and that was no good and I looked terrible. So hopefully I've got this just right. Anyway, welcome everybody. And what have I got for you today? Well, I'm in my craft room, so usually I'm talking about crafting here. I haven't got much to say. I haven't got much to show you this week. I have got, I'm going to just chat briefly about what I'm wearing. I'm going to update you on my quilt, and then I'm going to chat a little bit about a vintage book that's over 100 years old. It's all about learning to sew, and I'm going to finish off with a bit of baking. So hopefully that's a nice little variety of things. Right, let's get started then. So first of all, what I'm wearing. Well, last time I was in my craft room, I showed you photos of this kind of lying flat while it was blocking, and I promised that I would show you what it looked like worn. And rather than trying to stand up here and showing you right now, I've got some photos to show you. And I'm really not a model. I'm sorry, I'm just not cut out to be a model. Anyway, you can just see that it fits me really well. It fits perfectly. And I find that quite surprising because I haven't knitted many garments in the past. In total, I really haven't done much garment knitting, or large garment knitting anyway. And yeah, and it fits absolutely perfectly. And I like the colours of it, I like the toggles, and I'm really pleased with it. And it's lovely and warm, so it's just in case you didn't hear my previous chat about this, the wool that I used was West Yorkshire Spinners, what was it called? Retreat Twist. Oh, can't remember the name. Put it on the screen. Anyway, it's 100% wool and it is really nice and warm. And yeah, so I'm very happy with this, and it's very appropriate for this time of the year with all the autumn colours as well. And so yeah, so I think that is all I'm going to say because I talked much more about it last time. So the pattern, I'll put details of the pattern in the description box if you're interested. So that was very brief, wasn't it? So an update on my quilt project. I haven't really got much further on than when I last chatted to you. I have made one more 9 patch, this one here, which means I've got 3 more of these to do, and I have completed the April mouse square. So that means that I have got 4 of these left to finish, but actually one of them is nearly finished. So the May one here, I haven't taken a photo of this yet, but the May one, I'm just busy doing the writing now, and then I will just have 3 more of these to do. So it's getting close to that part of the project being completed. But I thought you might like to actually see my process. So when I was making the April square, I decided to video just parts of the process, not the whole thing, just in case you would like to see how it kind of comes into being from beginning to end. So I'll show you that now, and then I'll come back and chat a bit more. So if you've been here a few times before, you'll know that I really love collecting vintage books, particularly ones that give a sense of social history, things that were going on. And most of the books that I've got are kind of from the late 1800s, early 1900s, kind of going into the 1920s, and some a little bit later than that. But I was at my computer one day and decided I would find out a bit more about the editor of the Girls' Own annual, because I've got a few old Girls' Own annuals from the late 1800s, early 1900s. And the editor of the Girls' Own annual was called Flora Klickmann. And she became the editor. She was the second ever editor of the Girls' Own. And she took over in 1908. And I thought, oh, it's an interesting name. And there's a photo of her in one of the annuals. And I thought, oh, I wonder if I can find out a bit more about her. So I went down a bit of a rabbit hole for ages and ages. And I thought you might be interested to know a bit more about Flora. So Flora was born in London in January 1867. She was a keen musician, very proficient one, and she really wanted to become a concert pianist. She studied at the Trinity College of Music in London and then at the Royal College of Organists. And actually she was one of the very first women to play the huge organ at the Crystal Palace in London. However, her musical career was cut short because at the age of 20, they found that she had a heart condition, and doctors recommended that following a career of concert pianist would not be a good idea. So with music no longer an option, Flora turned to journalism, supposedly as a less stressful career, and she became a professional writer of magazine articles and books. And as I said, in 1908, she became the editor of the Girls' Own paper. She wrote or edited lots more books and pamphlets on subjects such as etiquette, knitting and sewing. In 1912, though, the stress and overwork caused her to suffer a breakdown, and she carried on being the editor of the Girls' Own paper. But she spent some time convalescing in a village that she came to absolutely love, a village called Brockwere in Gloucestershire. And she also fell in love with a man called Ebenezer Henderson Smith. And she married him in 1913 at the age of 46. His wedding gift to her was a house in Brockwere called Sylvan View. In May 1916, she published the first of a series of books of written sketches of life in a country cottage at Brockwere, and it became a whole series of books called the Flower Patch books. And the first one was an instant success. And she actually stayed as editor of the Girls' Own paper until 1930. And then she and her husband retired permanently to Brockwere, although she did continue to write Flower Patch books until 1948. Flora was a keen environmentalist, and she wrote about the virtues of gardening without artificial chemicals and the value of natural fertilisers long before they became fashionable. She didn't like the advances in technology that she saw being introduced, such as electricity. She used oil lamps in her home. She didn't like typewriters and preferred to write with a quill pen. And she was a great supporter of railways rather than the motor car. After her husband died in 1937, she lived a fairly reclusive life. She died in 1958, aged 91, and she was buried in a churchyard in Brockwere. And so I found that all very fascinating, and so the next rabbit hole I went on was just to actually find some of the books that she had written or edited. And one that really caught my eye was called The Little Girl's Sewing Book. So I found a copy of one. It was actually, strangely, from a bookshop in France. And so this is it here. It looks in a terrible state. I'm not the kind of collector who's looking for anything in pristine condition. I don't mind if it looks like it's had a bit of a life. I'd like to think that this book is like this because it was used a lot. But it was published in 1915 and it's just gorgeous. I mean, I love it. So I bought another of the books that are aimed at little girls, and I'll show you that sometime as well. But I've done a video on a lighter day than today to show you what's inside this book, because I hope you'll find it as fascinating as I did. So this is The Little Girl's Sewing Book, edited by Flora Klickmann. And we open up and we've got some lovely old adverts here. Perry's Powders, the finest medicine in the world for children's ailments. Advert for another book by Flora Klickmann here. And the Modern Knitting Book here, also by Flora Klickmann. And then a whole page advert here for Arden's Crochet Cotton. And then an advert for the Girl's Own and Woman's Magazine. It had become by this point, edited by Flora Klickmann. Another advert here for Robinson's Barley Water. And then we've got this beautiful title page, this lovely illustration here, looks very inviting. And another advert here for Beehive Wools. It's advertising some patterns that you can knit using the wool. Although it calls them recipes, that's interesting. The most simple and effective recipes for the famous beehive wools are given in these 3 books. And now a word to the grown-ups, first of all, at the start of this book. This book contains lessons in practically all the stitches used in plain needlework, as well as the more useful of the fancy stitches. Each article described and illustrated will be found to contain instructions for some definite branch of sewing, and though all the stitches required in making the article will not necessarily be illustrated in that chapter, they will appear in other chapters and can easily be referred to by aid of the comprehensive index. So, things you can make for yourself. So it starts off with a handiwork apron. You can see a picture of it here. And showing some gathering here in it. And a stitch. Not sure if that's the easiest of stitches to begin with, but there we go. And then what have we got? A couple more diagrams of how to do different stitches. Here's a project to make a lovely little box to keep your ribbons and bows in. So all the instructions there. There's a lot of reading to do, not so many pictures. And then a little bag here, a little drawstring bag, the lambkin bag. So it's decorated in a cross-stitch design and initials to go on there. Instructions for how to cross-stitch the little lambs or lambkins. Then we've got a little we've got a little poem here. When Dolly had an accident, the invalid. I'll not read all of that now. Then we've got the swallow nightdress pocket. So it's somewhere to keep your nightdress, and it's got some swallows embroidered on it, and this lovely frill around the edge, which was quite a challenge for a young sewer. And then we've got the little diagram for how to do the swallows. And then we're on to dressmaking, an easy to make pinafore. And again, It's got a very small number of photos. It's all in the description, in the words. And here we've got a pink sunbonnet. Very nice. So it's got this frill down here to protect your neck. Some long ties there. Oh, a housewife or hussif or sewing kit. A red satin housewife. Oh, again, it wouldn't be very easy fabric for a beginner to use, would it? Got some more embroidery here. And a picture of what it should look like inside. It mostly seems to be storing needles. And now in this section, presents you can make for people. We've got something called a feeder. I think it means a bib. And again, it's got cross-stitch design on it here. And it does show you what size fabric you need to make it. But otherwise, a verbal description of how you actually put it together. And a close-up of the cross-stitch there. Oh, a cat's design to go on the back of a chair. And, oh, there we go. Cat's looking a bit cross. And here we're into hardhanger. A hardhanger handkerchief sachet. Hardhanger is a kind of embroidery where you make holes in the fabric, but in a pretty way. That's beautiful, isn't it? Something to keep your handkerchief in. Lovely. And so just instructions here on how to do the hardhanger embroidery. Oh, quite a few designs here. Oh, there are some lovely little illustrations in here. Some children winding yarn. And here we have got a pale blue and heliotrope bag. You don't know what to make for Auntie. Why not make her a pretty bag to keep her work in? Lovely. Gosh, that looks complicated. What is it? Some kind of macrame done on needles? And you make it in strips and then join them together. Gosh. Little poem about dressmaking. Here we've got a design called the Amiable Pussycats. It looks like a tea cosy. And more diagrams there to show you how to stitch the design on it. Oh, that's pretty, isn't it? The orchid flower bag. And another design there. Oh, and here we've got cross-stitch alphabet, capitals and lowercase, in case you want to write people's names. And oh, I love this section. Furnishings for Dolly's cottage. So we've got something for the bed. So it's showing you how to make a mattress. Oh, very nice. And a mattress cover and blankets. So obviously learning how to do blanket stitch there. Pillows and pillowcases. Dolly's bed and bedclothes. Here's a bedspread. And a night dress case for the dolly. Oh, look at that. Bit of patchwork. A patchwork quilt is the next project along. So instructions there on making the patchwork quilt. And then for the dolly's pram, for the new perambulator. Oh, isn't that lovely? So obviously you could just trace this design and then put it onto your bit of fabric. Very nice indeed. Oh, that's pretty as well. This is a bedspread for Victoria, another doll. And then a poem here about the two dollies. And curtains for the doll's window, cottage window. These little rings on it. Lovely. and then how to make some carpets and hearth rugs. Oh, lots of different designs. This has got sort of tapestry work, isn't it? Another poem there, The Ostrich and the Silkworm. And then Doll's Clothes, about Dolly's wardrobe. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh. So some advice on cutting out your doll's clothes. And then we've got patterns here for Dolly's underwear, night dress. Oh, isn't that lovely? Knickers. Little petticoats and things. A frock and a coat for Dolly. Look, isn't she gorgeous? Lots of writing to read though for children. When you compare this with children's books today, which are nearly all illustrations for making things. Yeah, quite different. I've got a peacock cloth. What's this chapter about? Pretty oddments. So, some beadwork in here as well. It's not really sewing, is it? But or maybe it is. Maybe it's sewing the beads, the beadwork onto cloth. Pretty things in wool work. So I've got a kettle holder here. Some different kinds of kettle holders. A butterfly pin cushion. A curtain with the farmyard animals on. Oh, how lovely is that? That's really nice. Look at them. There's all the patterns for them. Beautiful. And then an index at the end. Another advert here for ladyship balls. Haven't heard of that make before. An advert for some sewing patterns. And a woman's magazine, Stitchery, so it must have all the different stitches in it. Again, by the very prolific Flora Klickmann. And some more adverts for books that she had written. There we are. What a lovely little book. So isn't that lovely? Oh, I actually quite fancy trying to make one or two of the things in the book and just see how easy it is to follow the instructions. So watch this space. That might be a little project for me for the future. And as I said, I'll show you the other one that I bought as well sometime. So I'll leave that for the moment. So I think we'll go off to the kitchen now and do a bit of baking. So today I'm showing you how I made a kind of biscuit called Empire Biscuits. So you may well have heard of them. They're quite commonly available in the UK anyway, and in particular in Scotland. In fact, that's where I've seen them most, but you can get them all over the place. And they're a sandwich biscuit, sandwiched with jam, and they've got icing on the top. And they've got quite an interesting history, just a little history. They actually originate from Central Europe, and mostly Austria, and they're similar to, not the same, but they're similar to something called a Linzer biscuit that was made in the city of Linz in Austria. I hope I said Austria before, not Australia. Yeah, Austria. And when they first came over to the UK, they were called Deutsche biscuits or German biscuits. But with the outbreak of the First World War, it was felt that German biscuits was not really a very patriotic name for them. So they changed the name to something much more patriotic, the Empire Biscuit, because at the time Britain still had an empire. And that name really has stuck. And that apparently, what I read that in Northern Ireland, they're still called German biscuits, and sometimes they're called double biscuits, and possibly they've got other names. You might tell me that. I read also that in New Zealand, and if you're in New Zealand, perhaps you can tell me if this is correct, that they're called Belgian biscuits because they look a bit like Belgian buns that have got the white icing on top with the cherry on. So yeah, anyway, so quite interesting, and they're lovely biscuits. I do apologise if you are someone who is not able to eat sugary things, but I hope you'll still enjoy watching me baking Empire Biscuits. Righto then, so that's me for this week, and fingers crossed there will be the final part of our Scottish camper van trip next week, if I get that done in time. Otherwise I might just be here again. But until I see you again, take great care of yourself, keep nice and busy, and I'll be back again very soon. Okay, bye.